She went from bed bucking and tap dancing for the Democratic Party to wanting to teach her children how to do the exact same thing. Before I transferred over to a 4-year college, I was attending a 2-year college in California. And the community college that I attended didn't even have a black student union. It was up to me and several other of the black student population in order to create it, fight through the racism that we had to fight through. We were called militias. We were called a terrorist group because we were standing on black issues and not abiding within a Pan-African sense. We forced our way onto that campus as a black student union, and I became the vice president of the Black Student Union due to me being a very vocal young man who wasn't intimidated by professors or anybody with a title. The higher ups, the different administrators started noticing that I was in areas speaking against certain injustices against black students at the college a lot. And they saw how powerful my voice was. And so one of the things that they wanted to do was send 5 members of the Black Student Union along with other members from other unions like the Asian Union and Latino Student Union to a conference called Inaugural. And the fact I had to speak up in order to be added to the list to go when there was no other person trying to go in that place, that opened a lot of people's eyes because I was not afraid to speak up and show that what they were doing was not only sexist because they were trying to send nothing but women at the time, was not only sexist, but it basically hinders young black men from becoming leaders by excluding them from different conferences like these leadership conferences and things like that. So to make a long story longer or short, whatever, I got to go to that conference. I was able to force my way to that conference, I guess you could say. And the administration liked the fact that I was able to do that. So the first conference that I was sent to was a conference called Inaugural. And it was a leadership and diversity conference. When we came back, after them seeing the way that I was engaging in the meetings and the different workshops and things like that, they got to see how powerful I was as a young black man. So what they did was they brought me in and made me the student representative on the equity board at that college. Now, sitting on that equity board, there was 2 black professors, 1 male, 1 female, and there was 2 Latino women, and the rest were, I think about 4 or 5 white women. So my belief is, because I know that my biggest opponents on that board was the white women and the Latino women. So in my eyes, I was put on the equity board to represent the black students because they needed to hear it from the black students themselves. I believe that the 2 black professors who sat on the equity board, they fought for me to get on that board because I was going to speak unapologetically. Which I did. I was one of the people who was responsible in deciding where millions of dollars went when it came to funding for black students. So I always took pride in that. From that point, they started sending me to different conferences. They sent me to a diversity conference that was strictly for diversity and inclusion. And they sent us to several leadership conferences. One was an A2 Men conference where I actually was able to meet, and this isn't a floss or nothing, but I was able to meet Alan Young. I was able to meet Michael Eric Dyson. I was able to meet Mark Lamont Hill. And here's a little fun fact. At that conference, the A2 Men conference, I was told we all was told by Michael Eric Dyson, actually not Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Lamont Hill, that Michael Eric Dyson paid for his college education. And at the time, I thought nothing of it. At the time, I absolutely thought nothing of it. But I say this in order to let you guys know that I have a little experience in the whole conference realm. I've been to enough of them to understand and know what goes on in those conferences. In one of the conferences that I went to, I had to fight back against the trans agenda way before it became a thing, where they was telling us that people who identify as women are women then. And I went the hell off breaking that down like, no. If you're not born with an XX chromosome, if you're not born with ovaries, if you're not born with the ability to give birth to a child, whether you can, whether you do or you don't, you're not a woman. And even then, they kept trying to break me down because they knew that I was the strongest student with the loudest voice. And all the other students was there agreeing with me like, no, not at all. We're not allowing this to happen. Fast forward to today's time, and now that same agenda that they were pushing then is already been implemented, and they're trying to force people to take on these social terms like cis and everything else. So when I say that I have some experience and I understand the goal and the agenda of a lot of these conferences, you can trust me when I say, or you can go and do your own research when I say this. They are indoctrinating the black youth by using these conferences and people like Stacy Abrams, who have been in politics and things like that, to give them a glamorous vision of the coon life. And if you're willing to be a coon, if you're willing to be a bed buck, they're going to help you get to that position to be a bed buck, to be a coon. And this is an absolute fact. I wasn't a person that was willing to give up my integrity. I've never been a person that's willing to give up my integrity. So when I'm fighting for my people, there's no amount of money that you can bring to me that's going to make me say things or do things that's detrimental to my people. That's not how it works. I grew up in a different era, and I studied under some of the wisest men to ever speak about these things. And it would be disrespectful to me and my ancestors to turn my back and accept just any old pat on the head over bringing economic inclusion, economic empowerment, and upliftment of my people to light. I say that to say this. You're seeing a lot more of these coons get into positions to where they're able to indoctrinate your children with their type of thinking. There's a lot of these coons, a lot of these bed bucks, a lot of these mammies that are getting into position to be able to literally teach your children how to be the next generation of bed bucks and ambulance chasers. I would like to speak about this article. I like to read from this article. I've highlighted a few things. And after reading this article, you'll understand where I'm going with it. There's a few articles that I actually want to get through, but we're going to touch this one first because I feel like it's really important to hear the words out of this woman's mouth. 2 failed attempts at the governorship because she would not offer black people one tangible thing on her campaign trail. Her whole campaign was about voting, voters' rights, and abortion rights. And every time we asked her, black folks asked her, what are you going to do for black Americans, black Georgians? It would never be a good response. It would always be some inclusionary nonsense, or some nonsense about abortion rights, or some nonsense about voter rights. So it is very important to ask questions about why she would be put into the position that she's being put into. Let's check out this article. Abrams will be the inaugural Ronald W. Walters Endowed Chair for Race and Black Politics. She expects to start the multi-year appointment in September and will travel some to D.C., but remain based in Georgia. They created a whole position for this woman. And the position that they created is to literally mold your children's minds the way that the black politicians on the Hill want their minds to be molded, the way that the Democratic Party on the Hill wants their minds to be molded. We are entering an inflected point in American politics where the conversation of race and black politics will be a central facet, Abrams said. And having the chance to help guide part of the conversation for young people who are studying at Howard University is an exceptional opportunity. Let me read that back. And having the chance to help guide part of the conversation for young people who are studying at Howard University is an exceptional opportunity. Howard's president, Wayne A.I. Frederick, said the appointment speaks to Walter's legacy around the topics of black politics and the role politics plays in African American life. Stacey Abrams epitomizes that in our contemporary experience in our society. Stacey Abrams epitomizes that in our contemporary experience in our society. Abortion rights, voters' rights. Okay, I digress. The work she's been doing on voter registration and voter irregularities, especially in Georgia, but across the country, speaks a lot to what Ronald Walters embodied. This appointment is extremely important for our students, he said, adding that he hopes it will help them create solutions to those problems. Nah, buddy, what it's going to help them create is a coon type mindset. It's going to help them create a individual mindset to where they don't care about anything that's going on in the black community as long as they're getting paid well, as long as they can stay in that gatekeeper position that they're so dedicated to keeping. Walters, a leading scholar of politics and race who was a professor at Howard for 25 years, organized one of the country's first lunch counter sit-ins in Kansas in 1958, and decades later advised Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign. His focus on African American leadership has shaped so much of how we have seen leaders engage over the last 30 years, Abrams says. So that should have you side-eyeing this whole position off the back. If this man is one of the reasons why our politicians engage with us the way that they do and the way that they have for over 30 years, then yeah, that's a red flag all damn day. That's a red flag. Abrams' new role is the latest in a string of high-profile hires for Howard in recent years. In 2021, Ta-Nehisi Coates, the writer whose work earned him a MacArthur Genius Grant and a National Book Award and led to a congressional hearing on reparations for slavery, joined the faculty, along with Pulitzer Prize winner and New York Times journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones. The award-winning actress and director Phylicia Rashad was named Dean of the Chadwick A. Boseman College of Fine Arts. So, two people from the Vote Blue No Matter Who camp, and Phylicia Rashad, we all remember the whole situation with Phylicia Rashad going up against those Howard students, who were just trying to get livable conditions. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But let's continue. We're going to be the answer to social issues, Frederick said. We're going to hire public intellectuals who will bring the type of discourse to campus that will inform and inspire students to solve problems. No, what you're going to do is hire people that's going to basically teach students how to ignore black issues while going after and supporting everyone else's issues. You're going to teach these students that LGBT rights are black rights. You're going to teach these students that immigrant rights are black rights when none of that is even a small percentage of our truth in our fight. So let's be very honest about what you're going to be producing. Howard students have activism in their DNA, he said. We want to make sure that they are good advocates. Good advocates? What does that even mean? Like, good advocates for who? It ain't going to be for black Americans because we don't have any good advocates, including the people that you're bringing to teach these children how to be good advocates. Okay, I digress once again. We want to make sure that they're good advocates, they understand the issues, that they're going to be in the position to help make the laws, help to change the laws, but that they are educated in what needs to be changed and why and how to change it. We want them fully equipped to be politically active. They just don't want you fully equipped to think for yourself and be fully active. They want you to be fully active in their vote blue no matter who situations. And then they're going to have you fighting for everybody but you situations. But let's move on. But Howard is located in a powerful hub of influence in many fields, she said. Washington, D.C. is an essential part of how we protect democracy, how we think about social policies, how we change norms, Abrams said. You know, Washington, D.C. is also where they're trying to implement giving illegal citizens access to voting in local elections. Access to voting in local elections. So when you say challenging norms, I'm wondering if that's what they're meaning by challenging norms. Because it's not normal to allow a non-citizen to vote in any election. It's against the Constitution. But they're trying to change the laws in order to give them ability to vote against you and me. I'm wondering, is that the challenges that she's speaking about when she's talking about challenging norms? In an interview this week, Abrams did not rule out running for office again, but said that was not her focus at the moment because she wants to indoctrinate the next generation of voters so that when she does run again, they're going to vote for her. They're going to vote for her. And anybody that the Democrats tell them to vote for. This is what the goal is. Abrams became nationally known for energizing reluctant voters and building support for Democratic candidates with intensive efforts aimed at both rural and urban areas. Black folk. She was selling out her folk for a pat on the head and a check. Some presidential candidates sought out her expertise in voter mobilization in recent years, and she was considered a likely vice presidential candidate for Joe Biden. We know how that turned out. In 2018, Abrams lost by less than 2% of the vote when she sought to become the country's first black female governor. In November, Abrams lost her rematch to the incumbent Republican Governor Brian Kemp. She had previously served as Democratic leader of the Georgia General Assembly. Now, I noticed something here. I noticed that they gave you the percentage that she lost by in the 2018 election, but not the percentage that she lost by in the most recent election. But don't worry. Don't worry. I got that number for you right here. After suffering defeat 4 years ago by just under 55,000 votes, Abrams was crushed in the rematch by more than 299,000 votes. Oh, it was a lot to a little. It was a landslide. It was you still want to play? That's a skunk right there, playboy. Play girl, or whatever you want to play. You didn't play. Whatever you call yourself, you got played. But yeah, hold up. Let's get back to the article real quick. It's almost over. Stacey Abrams says that she plans to bring a practical approach to politics and policies to the classroom. People don't care about your politics, she said. They care about their lives. Yeah, I'm sure you learned that firsthand when you thought that they were just going to, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give her my vote because I like her. And people showed you, no. Damn your politics. If you ain't giving us nothing, we ain't giving you nothing. And you lost. You lost again. A lot to a little. Because people don't care about your politics, as you say, Miss Abrams. They care about their lives. They care about their lives. Now, this next article is relatively really short, but it's going to go to my point. Yeah, I had to bring up Ben Crump's law school. I had to bring it up. I had to do it. It had to be done. It must be discussed. A Florida university has become the first in the nation to name its law school after a practicing black attorney. The Benjamin L. Crump College of Law at St. Thomas University was renamed in the ceremonies earlier this week. First and foremost, if you're getting something named after you in the state of Florida, that's another red flag. In the state where they're removing all black history, African American AP studies, when they're removing everything that they can, they trying to remove the Ruby Bridges story. You gotta ask, what are you not doing to get a school of law named after you in a state like that? And it's the first in the nation to do it with a practicing black attorney. What kind of work are you doing that they're going to honor you in that way, but also wants to remove all of our history out of the schools and out of public libraries? It just, the math ain't mathing. The math ain't mathing. It's just not mathing for me. Crump is a prominent civil rights attorney. Over the years, he has represented families of black victims who died at the hands of law enforcement, including Trayvon Martin and Breonna Taylor, as well as Ahmaud Arbery. He is currently representing the family of Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old man who died after a traffic stop turned into a deadly police beating. And they turned his funeral to a Vote Blue No Matter Who rally featuring the funeral of Tyre Nichols. If you haven't seen it, go see it for yourself. I've done a video on it. Many other people have done videos on it in the new black media. It's just disgusting, to say the least. To say the least. We have come such a long way in the journey to equality, but we're not there yet, Crump said in a statement to Reuters. Out of 199 law schools across the nation, the American Bar Association reports that only one other campus is named after a black lawyer, the Texas Southern University Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Named after the first black U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Marshall died in 1993. And that just so happened to be the school that I attend. Crump made a $1 million monetary gift to the school to help support the name change, Reuters reported. In 2022, nearly 80% of St. Thomas student body was comprised of students of color. 2/3 of the student body was Hispanic, and 7% was black, according to ABA. Nationally, non-white law students made up 33% of the population in 2022, according to the ABA's figures. Only 8% of law students were black. So, we have people going into these school arenas literally trying to create the next generation of gatekeepers. Literally trying to create the next generation of coons and bedbugs. When I told the story earlier about how Michael Eric Dyson paid for Mark Lamont Hill's education, it started to It dawned on me when I started seeing Michael Eric Dyson showing his coon that, Mark Lamont Hill started doing the exact same thing in every sense of the word. So on one hand, we have the woman who said black folk are broke because they ain't getting abortions.
Issue. It's been reduced to this idea of a culture war, but for women in Georgia, this is very much a question of whether they're going to end up in poverty in the next 5 years, because women who are forced to carry unwanted pregnancies end up in poverty within they're 4 times more likely to be impoverished in 5 years. They're twice as likely to be on food stamps. This is an economic issue, and it's being reduced to this culture conversation.
And on the other hand, we have a man who tells the victims of police brutality, the black mothers who birth these children and have to bury these children, that angry black women will never get a check. And if you didn't know that he said that, maybe you should go and check out Tamir Rice's mother, who's been dog whistling this whole situation for a while, calling him out and Tamika Mallory. But at the end of the day, family, these are things that we have to look out for. These are things that we have to call out as well and teach our kids and teach the younger generation to be able to call out the nonsensical bull stuff that they be bringing to them, trying to normalize it. Disney said get them while they're young. And that's what these folks have attempted to do for a while. Not just these folks, but all of these different groups tried to get the youth on board, because if you get the youth on board, then the next generation will be on board, so forth and so forth. We cannot allow these type of people to indoctrinate the minds of the youth with that bedbuck mentality. See, back then, we had the gatekeepers being the boule. And they're part of different, sororities and fraternities and things like that. Nowadays, Howard has said, you know what? That's not quick enough. We need to do this on a mass scale. And we need to get people in here that's going to help do this on a mass scale. We need to produce the next generation of voters. We need to think about the next generation of thinkers. We need to make sure that they're not thinking about reparations and economic inclusion. What they're thinking about is gay rights, LGBTQ rights, immigrant rights, and everything else besides getting what's owed to them. We have to make sure that we're producing these people, because it's not happening quick enough. It's not happening quick enough. So we got to mass produce these people. So we're going to go ahead and bring in Stacy Abrams and help her pay off that $1 million debt from her campaign that just disappeared. We're going to help you pay that off. No problem. We're going to bring you in. We're going to bring in Ta-Nehisi Coates, Nikole Hannah-Jones, these vote blue no matter who shields. And we're gonna pay you to just go ahead and, help us indoctrinate the next generation of voters. Let's make sure that they understand the issue is not their issue. Let's make sure that they know that their vote is not for their issues or their own interest. Their vote should only be used to further everyone else's interest. Let's make sure we have attorneys who understand that Black death is money. It's about money, not changing the social status quo. But when a black man or woman gets killed by the police or any other situation, we got to make it about the dollar. Because we ain't got no souls. We got to get paid. That's what Black Death is in America. These are the type of people that they're looking to push out. People who are so willing to look at every other policy, but won't give you a real economic policy for the black community. More specifically, for the descendants of American slaves. Now, I hope you guys took something away from this. Drop your comments. Please let me know what you think about this, because it's important that we are getting to the minds of the youth before these people get to the minds and the pockets of the youth. Because once they get to the minds and start putting that money in their pockets, because that does happen when you go to conferences as well, they give you funds in order to have money to eat and things like that. But when they start getting to the pockets, and then you start getting these little grants from these little, programs, getting these scholarships, you start to want to believe more in their rhetoric. So we got to stop them before they even get a chance to get an inkling of that money, of that coon lifestyle, that beg bucking nature, and we got to shut it down. We got to shut it down. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Like, comment, share. Let's have the conversation. Because if we don't, and especially if we're not having it with the youth, the younger ones, the ones that's going to be the next generation, we ain't going to make it. We ain't making it at all. The doors of the church are now closed.